intend to encourage young couples to buy their own properties over 25 years, but will only be taken away when they need to go into care later on in their life. What will your party do to provide affordable homes for local people? And there's been quite a few questions about illegal encampments, which is in an indirect way connected with housing. People who feel they have the right to just hitch up wherever they wish to do, and what your policy would be on that. So it's two things: it's housing, and it's about social care in relation to housing when people get older, and about illegal encampments. So I'm going to start with Sims. I'm going to just back around the different ones. Sorry to dump all on you in one go, but I think we need to try and
job. 19,000 homes to be built in Basildon very soon. In terms of the numbers, I don't have an issue. I have a huge issue with the amount those houses are going to cost. Those houses will cost far too much money for local people to afford. They're not for local people. They're for either people working in London or they're designed as investments for people wanting to put their money somewhere, not in a bank account. That's wrong. Houses should be for local people. They should be so people have somewhere to live and raise their family. It's also a case those houses are not being built correctly or eco-friendly. They're not being they need to be filled in with insulation so the houses remain warm. If they were by an elderly person, that would really help. But anyway, that would really help with their insulation, help with gas bills, help with electricity bills. They must be built to a ecological standard, or they shouldn't be built at all. As to people hitching up their wagons wherever they wish, green belts and conservation areas are a no-go area for me. You shouldn't just stay there wherever you like, because that land is protected. That land is for everyone. The land is for everyone to enjoy. That is for animals, plants, everything to stay safe and protected. It's realistically, those people also need looking after. They need somewhere to go. If you can't just say go anywhere but here. You need to look after people that are part of the community as well. You need to make sure they have somewhere to go.
A good go.
Sure. Okay, so I think frankly it's a disgrace what we're doing to our young people, because we've got a generation of young people who are being locked out of housing, and it's disgraceful. So Labour actually wants to intervene significantly in the issue of housing. In the private sector, we want to increase tenancies. Enough of these 6-month tenancies. There should be 3-year tenancies so that people have stability and know that they can stay in their home long enough to be part of the community. There should be an inflation cap on private rented accommodation so landlords can't start pushing up the price and taking yet more money out of the pockets of our young people. Labour wants to build 1 million new homes, and 500,000 of those will be council homes, because people deserve the chance of a secure home throughout their lifetime. And it's not good enough to keep talking about affordable homes. It's not good enough to talk about how the house prices will eventually go down. We have to act, and we have to build for the future, and we have to give our young people some hope that they are going to have a house and a home where they can live for the rest of their lives. In terms of social care, you work your whole life. You pay for a house your whole life. If you bought it, what happens then? Because at the moment, there are proposals on the table for, well, I use what the Financial Times call it, a dementia tax. And what's been proposed in the Conservative manifesto is that if you need long-term social care, then your house value will be used to pay for that social care. The only thing that will be left is £100,000 at the end. When the Prime Minister wobbled on that, and there was a bit of a backlash from the public, they're now saying there'll be a cap, but they can't tell us what cap it will be. So it's an uncosted pledge. We don't actually know how much this is going to raise, how much this is going to cost, and what it actually means for people. So it's something of a strange gift, not even a leap in the dark for most people. Labour Party's been really clear on this. When you need long-term social care, there will be long-term social care. Now, if we're going to talk about how we're going to pay for things, the Labour Party produced the costed manifesto, unlike the Conservative Party. And we were perfectly clear about how we would raise our money. Because at the end of the day, it will be corporation tax will go up from 19% to 26%, which will put us in line with the rest of the European and G7 economies, and actually is what it was at when we left office in 2010. We'll increase income tax on the top 5% of society, because the Conservatives cut tax for people who are earning £1 million from 50 pence down to 45 pence. Actually, you don't need £1 million a year to live on. Those people can pay a little bit more, and the suggestion that people will leave if we do it, well, they did it when we did it in 2010. So actually, I think that a higher rate of income tax on those with the broadest shoulders and corporations paying their fair share would raise about 25 billion. We will close the tax loopholes, because at the end of the day, money is leaking out of our economy. And if you want to find where the magic money trees are, go to the offshore tax havens. The companies because that's where our money's going, and it's not right, because they're getting our staff, they're getting our people. Our people are being trained to work in their industries, and they are not putting their fair share back in. So that's where the money is going to come from.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Now, house prices have been going through the roof for quite some time. From my memory, it really started when Margaret Thatcher was Prime Minister and took mortgage payments off the Consumer Price Index. And ever since then, our monthly wage package has not been kept up to date, has not kept up to speed with house prices. So I think without being too blunt about it, I think we understand where the problem started from. Housing benefits also have been going to private landlords, and private landlords can be charging whatever they care to. Now, I think we need to actually put a proper collar upon this and ensure that there is a cap on what private landlords can take from the state. The state is not here to subsidise the incomes of private landlords. We need to be building more council homes, because as has been said, these homes that are being built are not affordable. They're certainly not affordable to me, and I suspect most people in this room. We need to make sure that we build more council homes, because it's young families who want to invest their time and raise families in our local community actually get that kind of chance. We need to look at a different way of how these homes are being built, and I use the words homes, and I'll come to the point about why I'm using the words homes in a moment. But we need to look at different ways of how these homes are being built, because currently it's by commercial developers. Now, it's not in the interest of commercial developers to be building more and more homes. It just doesn't work that way. Supply and demand suggest that if you restrict supply, the prices of these houses will go up. And that's what we're seeing. We need to break this cycle. What we should be doing, the Liberal Democrats are proud to insist upon it, that we need to be making sure that our communities themselves build our own homes, that it's local companies building on their own brownfield lands in their own areas. And we can introduce that into our education system. We can introduce that as well through our green technology. And the point is this, is that if you have young people learning a trade, learning how to lay brick, they will be invested into their local community. They will be creating jobs, they will be learning trade, and they will have pride in their local community. And this is the kind of model that commercial developers just do not provide. Now, I'll talk about why I was talking about homes rather than housing before, because it has been by a number of parties to see homes, or rather houses, as investments. They're not investments, they're homes, and in this country an Englishman's home is his castle. And to have it taken away when we're at our most neediest, when we're old, when we're frail, and we're suffering from dementia, and we rely upon the NHS, is outrageous, is out of order. We need to ensure that we fund our NHS correctly and properly, and if we're talking about how we fund such things, the Liberal Democrats, as most people know, we will say that we will have a penny on everyone's income tax. And that's an income, that's the price of a coffee every week. And what that means is that everybody contributes, not just the top 5% who are wealthy enough to move out of the country or hire expensive accountants and fiddle and squirrel away their savings and get out of paying tax. They can afford not to pay tax, but we want to make sure that is even. And most people who will be getting a loss in their income won't be until they're earning something around £90,000. Now, the idea of seeing homes as investment has been really what has been driving this dementia tax. We can call it dementia tax, we can call it inheritance tax, we can call it whatever you like, but the idea that modest people with modest incomes who have been contributing to their communities should pay a higher rate of tax on their homes as investment than the wealthy currently do is certainly not something that I'm here to be promoting.
Okay, thank you. I think there are three distinct issues. Let's start with the traveller issue. I think that the situation that we have seen over the last few weeks has become intolerable. Whether it's in Basildon or in Thurrock, it is a flouting of the laws. And we all know that if it was us, we would be hauled over the coals, we would never get away with it, and yet there are certain sectors of our country that seem to just fly roughshod over all the rules. So just before the election, I wrote to the Prime Minister saying that we needed to do something about this, that it cannot go on. There seems to be a lack of connection at times, and I don't blame individual people, but the police and council at times are not clear who should be taking the lead. There is ambiguity about whether or not they are acting lawfully. What I want is a clarification of the law, and if necessary, more powers for the police to act on their own authority and then mop up any particular challenge after that fact. Because I'm not picking on any particular community, I just want us all to abide by the same rules. Housing is a very tricky problem. Everyone is promising to build hundreds of thousands of houses until they're actually being built anywhere near where you are actually located, and suddenly it turns into a political football. We see that every time. So I would like to know now from Byron and from UKIP, because they're now in coalition on Basildon Council, whether they are going to accept the local plan or whether they are going to abandon it. In which case, how are we going to be building houses that everyone has said that we need? I'm very unclear about this. The bottom line with housing is supply and demand. We need more homes, whether they are council homes, shared ownership, starter homes. We need more homes, and that has got to be the biggest challenge. We need to find a way to adapt or use our planning system with the engagement of the local population to actually come up with local solutions. I do agree with that, but it is now time. We cannot keep putting this on. Some blame the developers for holding back the development because it's in their interests. Actually, they like to build out more homes. They haven't got the skills and they haven't got the planning permissions to be able to do that. And that's what we've got to tackle. And in the Conservative Manifesto, we are talking about building more council homes. We have supported shared ownership schemes. We have introduced the schemes like Help to Buy, where you need a relatively small deposit to be able to get on that housing land. But the bottom line is we need to find a solution to build more homes. Now, I don't want to give up the green belt any more than anyone else does. But we have to talk about this in a sensible way and stop it being that political football where we all talk in grand terms about building houses and then object them on a local level. And then the third thing, and probably the most misrepresented, is the proposed changes to the way social care is funded. I'm actually incredibly proud that as a nation, over the last 30 years, we have raised life expectancy by 15 years. I heard from a professor, teaching professor, medical professor, that life expectancy has risen by 5 hours a day for the last 30 years. Now, the consequences of that are that people are living longer. That's great. But it does mean that we have a challenge of how do we care for those people into old age. Now, the system as it stands at the moment is if you go into residential care, you will be expected to pay for that if you have assets over £23,250. You'll be expected to pay from your savings, and then when that is exhausted, the value of your house is included and a charge will be made to your estate once you have passed on. What we are saying is the cap on that will be raised from that 23,250, sorry, the floor will be raised from 23,250 to 100,000, and as the Prime Minister has said, there will be a cap. I don't know what that cap will be, but Dilnot suggested in his report it was 72,000, and this will all be subject to a consultation later in the year. Where there is also being changes on domiciliary care, the care you might receive at home. And again, the system at the moment is, if you receive care at home and have savings, those will be depleted until you have £23,250 left, and then the state will kick in. Again, that threshold is being raised to 100,000, so you will always have a minimum of 100,000. There will be a cap, but in fairness, to try and create more money or put more money into the system, a charge will be made upon your property after you have passed on. So no one will be expected to sell their homes during their lifetime. And as I said, this will all be subject to consultation, and I would encourage everyone to take part in that consultation, to find a sustainable solution, to actually look after those people who are living much longer. And what we need to do is not just help them live longer, it's help them live better. And that may well be caring their own home, but that does need to be paid for. And I haven't heard a solution other than we'll just put lots of money into the system. This is an actual proposal, and it will be subject, as I said, to consultation. It's not ideal, but it is a solution. It'll be interesting to see what comes out of the consultation later in the year.
Well, then why did you do a massive U-turn then? Why is your whole thing falling apart on it?
Can you respond to the...
This is ridiculous. No, I mean, the last thing you do is start making people feel desperately uncertain. Our plan with social care is very simple. We would fund to the tune of 2 billion social care, which should be fully integrated with national care. It should be a national health and care service. It should get 11 billion a year. We would do that by reducing the foreign aid budget. Not getting rid of the foreign aid budget totally, but by reducing it to the same level as America, which is 0.2. At the moment, it's a ridiculous amount. That is how we would fund it. Right, so you talk all the time about basically how is this going to be done and people are living longer. Okay, so they're living longer, and therefore they will have health challenges. You just have to deal with it. It's as simple as that. When it comes to housing, which I think the question was originally about, no, don't accept the local plan. You can't just sort of randomly build more houses with no infrastructure. You know, there's one big hospital at Basildon, and then one at Allsep is actually probably going to be closed down in a few years' time. No infrastructure whatsoever. This is happening increasingly over the country. The reason for that is, of course, we have to build new homes. We have been slow on actual building. That is just a fact. But at the same time, you can't keep talking all the time about supply without looking at demand. You know, I live in Woolwich at the moment. London's population is going up by 1 million a decade. Right? You have to surely get a bit of a grip on the demand side of these things, right, before you can even start to look at how you address the problem. But in the meantime, what I would say is we have a very particular proposal when it comes to housing, and particularly for young people in housing, which I don't think any other party has come up with. I don't know whether you're familiar with factory-produced modular homes. They're like extremely smart, state-of-the-art, well, what used to be called prefabricated houses, but these are not like that. We would actually produce 100,000 of these a year. They would be produced where people need jobs, and they would go to where people need homes. They would be available to people to buy for around about £100,000, more or less the cost price. They would be available to people up to the age of 40. When they want to sell them, they would sell them back to the housing corporation we would fund. This way, this would alleviate at least some of the problem without being a burden on the taxpayer. So that is a very particular proposal we have in our manifesto. But as I would say to you, when it comes to housing, you can't concrete over the whole of the country. When it comes to the Green Belt, it's being concreted over by stealth anyway, largely by Tory councils. Right? We have to protect this, so you have to get a grip as well on the demand.